Hello, starting with band 7 and 8. I know I promised in the last class, we've already completed band 5 and band 6, and now we're moving on to band 7 and band 8, and you'll see the difference. And a lot of what I'm going to say here, you might not understand right away, but you will understand as the course goes on, okay? Because I'm actually going to explain the grammar that happens right here. And that isn't present in band 5 and 6. Shall we? I'm going to share my screen here, so let's go. Here we are, band 7, 8, and 6, as we discussed today regarding the topic of stress. And now let's move on to the introduction. In today's space-based world, stress has become an unavoidable part of modern life. So it already started with paraphrasing. Really cool, right? Very well paraphrased. Now look at this complex sentence. Whilst too, some people believe that a certain amount of pressure can improve performance. Others argue that excessive stress, especially when experienced over a prolonged period of time, can lead to serious health problems, both physical and mental. Here we already have a complex sentence, which means using a grammatical structure such as a contrast, or in other words, a conditional. Within the paragraph, you're demonstrating grammar and you get points for that. And here, in this case, it's while, which is a type of contrast. It is said that we are going to discuss both the advantages and disadvantages of stress in daily life. Comments to show. Now we're going to comment. I would like you all to, if you buy the book, in the book there are also several I6s, several analyses of different I6s and what to improve. It's really, really, really good. What I'm doing here is actually superficial compared to what the book shows. So let's go to the opinion here in this introduction, which is it paraphrases the topic in a very natural way, presents both sides of the argument clearly, ends with a thesis. You know what a thesis is. A thesis would be your opinion, your topics, your advantage, and your disadvantage. It ends with a strong thesis showing, presenting the ISE. And it uses a complex structure, as I already mentioned. It has a formal and balanced tone throughout the entire response. This is exactly what IELTS examiners expect and look for in this particular type of essay. So with that in mind, let's take a closer look at it now and see how these qualities are demonstrated in the writing. But the paragraph 1. Here we are with paragraph 1. I left it colored like this to show the TEL, how the TEL is correct here in paragraph 1. One advantage. So I'm already moving on to the advantage. One advantage of moderate stress is that it can act as a motivator, pushing individuals to meet deadlines and achieve goals. See, the TEL is complete within the topic, and here comes the explanation. I'm already explaining my topic because I can't just put one advantage of moderate stress is that it can act as a motivator. So what? What do you mean? That's why I'm explaining. Pushing individuals to meet deadlines and achieve goals. Now I'm going to give an example. For instance, students who experience mild pressure before concentration exams better and perform more efficiently. Here is the example, right? It's highlighted in yellow here, as you can see. This short-term stress, here we have a compound adjective, helps them to stay focused and complete tasks successfully. They're wrapped up with a nice little link, right? So this body paragraph 1 here follows the TEL structure correctly. Clear and formal topic sentence, explains before giving the example. You need to have this, the explanation before the example. Academic vocabulary, moderate, motivate, efficiently. And it even closes the paragraph with a very natural linking sentence. And let's move on to body paragraph 2, which is, as you already know, the misadventure. As you have seen in the previous videos, this section is important for understanding the story. According to the structure, we now move on to the events, right? We go to the events, and obviously we're going to introduce a contrast here. And here comes a contrast, the however. However, this is my topic, but I have, as you will see, a different point to make. To explain it, okay? I said there is mental and physical damage, right? So now I have to explain it. Let's go. Employees who work long hours without proper rest. People often suffer from ongoing anxiety and persistent insomnia. Now look, here I am describing this in detail with a, because here, right in the first one, I'm already giving an explanation, okay? And here I'm explaining with an example, right? Which reduce productivity and quality of life. I'm already linking it with the relative pronoun which earns points for using grammar, as I've already mentioned. A relative pronoun, which, already linking it to the example. Consequently, long-term exposure to stress can lead to burnout and chronic fatigue. Well, this conclusion, it follows the three, sorry, I'm not at the conclusion, I'm at body paragraph 2. I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Well, this body paragraph 2 already starts with however, correctly showing contrast between the paragraphs from advantage to disadvantage, okay? It contains the complex sentence with which reduce. It's a complex sentence with a relative pronoun, okay? It uses precise vocabulary, excessive insomnia, burnout, and ends with a logical and natural connection. With that sentence, which reduces their productivity, is a relative clause, a perfect example of a complex structure that shows grammatical variety, essential for band 8. Let's move on to the conclusion, which I had already started earlier in the conclusion. And now that we're reaching the conclusion. In conclusion, stress is an unshakable part of modern life that can often have an impact on individuals in different ways. We're already here, and it's already started here, as we're talking about everything I mentioned above, but in a somewhat different way. Now, I'm going to use a more complex sentence to illustrate my point, showing grammar, obviously, because I'm using a complex sentence. I'm using while, which is a contrast. And then I put my two topics, my two theses. Advantage and disadvantage. While it can sometimes encourage people to stay focused and meet their goals, that's my advantage, okay? It may also lead to serious mental and physical health issues when not managed properly. That's my disadvantage, okay? So those are my two theses that I included in the paragraphs. Now, obviously, I'm going to characterize the conclusion with my opinion. It's the only time we can give our opinion. Personally, I believe that maintaining a healthy balance between pressure and relaxation is essential to living productively and happily. The conclusion in IELTS needs to have 3 steps, which are mandatory, especially in 6 of the advantage and disadvantage type. Summarize the entire essay in 1 sentence. That's the first step. Present the main points again without repeating them, which he did. Stress is an unavoidable part of modern life. She summed everything up. The first sentence of the conclusion gives a general summary of the topic. Without repeating the introduction or bringing in details, It shows that the writer understood the subject and is wrapping up their reasoning. The second step, which I already mentioned, is to present the main points again without repetition. While this can sometimes encourage people to stay focused and achieve their goals, it can also lead to mental and physical problems when not managed properly. Here, the author recalls both sides. The positive side helps maintain focus and achieve goals. And the negative side, physical and mental problems. Notice that the ideas are the same as those in the paragraphs, but expressed with different words, that is, paraphrased. This demonstrates varied vocabulary and cohesion. The third part of the conclusion is the personal opinion, but it is very well characterized. Personally, I believe that maintaining a healthy balance between pressure and relaxation is essential to living productively and happily. This is the author's final opinion. Clear, balanced, and formal. No contractions are used. I am, do not, etc., and presents a mature, thoughtful perspective characteristic of Band 7. So we finished this C now, obviously with Band 7.5. Because of everything that was used, the task response was completed, lexical resource was fulfilled, which are the IELTS criteria, coherence and cohesion were completed, done properly, and there was a grammatical range using complex and compound sentences. I will still explain this to you. We'll stop here for now, and I sincerely hope you got an idea of what we discussed. Remember, it's just an idea at this stage. We still have a long way to go before we reach our goal, okay? So please take your time to think about everything, and I'll see you next Tuesday. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to bring them up then.